I'm Chris Dotson, and welcome to another season of Majorly Minor. And welcome to Majorly Minor. This edition of Majorly Minor, we're going to discuss preseason rankings with the CFL, the XFL, and the WXFL. We'll start with the XFL. Commissioner Mike Hilbert retains his league from last year with having 7 teams from last year, had a very successful season. However, it kind of fell off the wayside closer to the end. This year, however, there was a mass exodus of teams that left for the CFL, but Mike actually made out in the long run. Now with 8 teams in the league, with 4 new teams, one of which coming from the CFL, and 3 teams from last year. So let's go ahead and get into the preseason rankings. Number 1 comes as no surprise, your 2015 champions, the Kansas Cougars, with an overall record of 10-2 from last season. These guys are a powerhouse, a very perennial powerhouse, and I don't think anybody's going to stop them this year, just from what I've seen. They've pretty much reloaded as opposed to just restocking from last year, and I expect good things from them. In my preseason, I think they're going to win it again, year number 2 in the XFL, your Kansas Cougars. Followed up by that one CFL team, the Rose Hill Zombies. The Zombies come in from last year at 5-5 in the CFL, but were very competitive. I think they should have done a little bit better last year, but I think they're reloading themselves, and they're going to basically make it a run for the money. I look for them to really become the nightmare of this year for the XFL. Number 3, the Oklahoma Chargers. Last year they had a disappointing 4-6 season, which honestly they had some really good members on their squad. I think they can do some really good things. They've had more time behind them, and as we know, with an offensive line that can actually gel, you're going to get a lot better production. So I put them as number 3. Number 4, a brand new team to the league. This one's being coached by Gary Joyce, who, as most of us know, is the former CFL All-Star, a great coach, and I think he's going to have some really good things for these guys. Number 4 goes to the Oklahoma Monarchs. Number 5 is also another new team into the league, the Oklahoma City Bulls. Now the Bulls, this one was kind of iffy to begin with. When I first heard about their incoming into the league, they were supposed to go to the CFL last year, but it didn't quite work out. They weren't able to compete. However, they were able to regroup, and from what I've seen so far, they look to be a pretty competitive team. So we'll see how the scrimmages play out as opposed to the regular season. Number 6, the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs. Now, the Bulldogs, of course, last year were known as the Putnam City or the Ponca City Bulldogs, changed their name to the Northern Oklahoma Bulldogs. They came in last year at 1-6, didn't really even compete into the playoffs because of some internal issues going on. However, I think that they should be able to put together a squad that should be able to produce something, so I put them at number 6. Number 7 comes in with a brand new team as well, the Yukon Bobcats. These guys are basically former Force players. Some of them are picked up as brand new. They look to be somewhat competitive. It's too early to tell, so that's why I give them a number 7 slot. Number 8, and the last, of course, for the XFL, is the Oklahoma City Jaguars. I really know nothing about this team, haven't seen any tape whatsoever, haven't really heard of any scrimmages other than they needed some coaches. So, of course, I have to put them as dead last. Unless you guys prove me wrong, I really don't see it. Now, next up on the list, the WXFL. This is a second-year women's football league. Now, last year it only had 2 teams. The Oklahoma City Lady Force, which is your 2015 WXFL champions. Of course, they're ranked at number 1. And number 2, the Northern Oklahoma Extreme. They went back and forth for a few games and actually pretty much just played each other a few times, had a championship game. It was a tight game to begin with, but the Oklahoma City Lady Force won it. So at number 2, the Oklahoma Extreme. Number 3, a new team into the league, the Kansas Lady Cougars. Number 4, the Enid Enforcers, the Enid Lady Enforcers, which I think they're going to be doing pretty good as well. And then number 5 to round it out is going to be the Rose Hill Lady Zombies. Now you can actually catch both of these leagues. They have one website, the XFL-WXFL league.com. We'll actually post that up on the website here soon. Now coming right back, we're going to talk about the CFL Top 10 and how their divisions break down, and of course the new DCFL when we come right back.
98, 99, 100. 100 combs every day. Each armpit, each strand of hair gets individual attention. You know why? Because I care. That's why I use this, Old Spice Pro Strength. The finest street legal antiperspirant you can get outside of Mexico that's not poisonous.
And we're back. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the CFL. Now let's go ahead and go right into the top 10. I know there's a lot of people right now that have a lot of speculation and anticipating what this year is going to hold. So, to start off with, no surprise here, the Joplin Crusaders is number 1. Your 2015 champions with a 13-1 overall record and only losing one game out of the whole season, including the national championship game itself. The Wenatchee Rams came in and actually had a real good team, and it's pretty much what it was. However, for AA Division II team, I mean, they did some wonders. Now, from what I understand, there are a little bit of a shift in paradigm, if you will, as far as some coaches and some players that have left because of one various reason or another. But I still hold them as number 1 until somebody beats them. Number 2, the Northwest Arkansas Battle. With a record of 11-4, they've had some really good ball games last year. They were very stout, really strong. I think they reload, and I think they make it a run for the money for the CFL. Number 3, the perennial powerhouse Enid Enforcers. These guys are always a force to be reckoned with, all puns intended. But these guys, I'm going to rank at number 3 because some years it's kind of hit and miss, but I think they'll reload again, bring on some good new talent. Since there's Vance Air Force Base there, they always have an influx of new guys coming in. So I give them number 3. Number 4, River Valley Reckoning. These guys are a tough team. Do not underestimate them. They have the potential of possibly running the CFL. Who knows? But I would definitely keep my eyes out on them. Number 5, a new team to the CFL, the 6-2 Oklahoma Nightmare coming in from the XFL last year. These guys also, you definitely want to keep them on your radar because they are a tough team. Do not sleep on them. That's all I'm going to say. Number 6, the Arkansas Guardians. Another good team, 6-5 record from last year. They look to be doing some new things, adding to the roster. I see some good things out of them, so I'm going to put them at number 6. Number 7, the Oklahoma Territorial Desperados, coming in last year at 6-5. However, they've made the transition from the XFL to the CFL. They've added some to their roster. They seem to be a cohesive, good unit, so watch out. Number 8, the Queen City Grizzlies. They had a mediocre year last year. However, that was a first-year team for them. They were coming into this not knowing exactly what the expectations were, but they had some good games last year. So watch out, folks. Number 9, the Kansas City Saints. They had to do some long travels between Kansas City and some of the Arkansas teams. The closest team that they had to them was the Queen City Grizzlies. So there we go at number 9. Followed up by number 10. This is going to come to a surprise as most. However, I have to put them in here because of many, many reasons. Number 10 are the Southwest Gravediggers. Now, a lot of people haven't heard who the Southwest Gravediggers are. They're the team out of Lawton. Remember the Hellcats last year that played in the GDFL? Well, they moved to the DCFL, which honestly, in my opinion, they don't belong in the developmental Central Football League division at all. However, that's their choice. So the 1-6 in the GDFL Hellcats, I think, are going to round up at number 10, and they're going to win some games, folks. So watch out for them also. So that's your top 10 picks for the CFL this year. Now, we're going to get right into how the divisions are going to play out. Now, again, this is the CFL league now that has 17 teams in it. Now, this is the most amount of teams since 2005, which, by the way, 2005 was the first year for the CFL, and they had 16 teams. So, and I competed in that at that time as well, playing for the Tulsa Stampede. Long story, bad team. We'll get into that later. However, here's how each division is going to shape up. Let's start off with the CFL East. CFL East is comprised of number 1, the Northwest Arkansas Battle, number 2, River Valley Reckoning, number 3, the Arkansas Guardians, and the number 4 new team, Arkansas Extra. Now, this is a very tough league, or tough division, if you will. So you've got 3 teams in it that are powerhouses themselves, then you've got 1 team that's probably going to take a pounding. That's pretty much it. Now, the CFL Central. You have your perennial powerhouse, number 1, Joplin Crusaders, number 2, Queen City Grizzlies, number 3, Kansas City Saints, and number 4, a new team to the league, the Wichita Assassins. The CFL finally gets back into the Wichita market. Now, the CFL West, in my opinion, this is the black and blue division, and here's why. Number 1, the Enid Enforcers. Number 2, the Oklahoma Nightmare. Number 3, the Oklahoma Territorial Desperados. And number 4, the Oklahoma City Elite. Now, granted, 3 out of 4 of these teams are from the XFL. However, all 4 teams are competitive. Now, granted, the Oklahoma City Elite didn't have that great of a year last season, but I've seen some great moves made on their part. Mike White's team is actually looking pretty darn good, and it's hard to say how this division's going to pan out and how it's going to affect everything else. So this one is my favorite. Now, moving along to the last division, this is the DCFL. What the DCFL basically is comprised of are first-year teams that are in smaller markets that need a little bit of time to develop, not only as teams, but also in markets. They also have the privilege of whoever wins that particular division to play in the playoffs against the other teams. So, here's how the DCFL shapes up. Number 1, the Southwest Gravediggers. Now, again, this team I don't believe should be in this one, but it is what it is. So they're my number 1. Number 2, the GC Phoenix. Green Country Phoenix is another team that honestly I don't think should be in this, but however, they felt that they need a little bit more time to develop to get into the CFL. It might be a smart move, honestly, on their part because they've lost a few players here and there. That Tulsa market is pretty saturated with teams as far as good talent is concerned, so we'll see how this one pans out. Number 3, a new team, the Arkansas Raptors, followed up by number 4, the Arkansas Panthers, and number 5, the Arkansas Tornadoes. Those 3 teams I haven't seen anything, haven't heard anything, so that one's kind of a crapshoot, if you will. Now, that's pretty much how the CFL stacks in this year. Of course, there's going to be a ton load of speculation, not only on Major League Minor, but also the Southwest Sports news page on Facebook. There's going to be a lot of jawing back and forth. Of course, these preseason rankings, it's kind of a crapshoot, but I'm trying to do as best as I can with all the information that was obtained to kind of give you an overview of what's going on. Now, join me next week. Next week is when we really dive into each league and how everything's really going to pan out and who's going to possibly take the first week. Those are going to be a lot of great games that's going to be broadcasted. And we'll talk about our broadcast, the Major League Minor Network, and how that's going to shape up. So join me next week. And until then, go watch some football.